Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining our webinar today, where we will focus on explaining and showing you how to report from your Microsoft PPM system. So my name is Sarah Howard, and I'm with a Microsoft Gold partner. We're called Progility, and we've been implementing Microsoft PPM solutions for over 16 years now for large enterprises. So that includes everything from engineering, construction, IT, new product development, and we specialize in implementing these solutions for large enterprises. So people tend to get a hold of us when they can't easily explain what's going on across all of their projects. They don't know what resources are working on what work, and they have a hard time getting consistent reports and metrics to make project-based decisions. So we do offer services and solutions in 3 core areas. Progility's core business is deployment and consulting services, in which we provide professional services for successfully planning and implementing Microsoft project and portfolio management, including Microsoft Project Online, integrating PPM with line of business applications, and delivering strategic portfolio management solutions to support top-level management planning. We also have a growing business intelligence practice that leverages best-in-class solutions such as Microsoft's Power BI. Progility also offers a set of pre-built software solutions and accelerators based upon 16 years of experience, including a set of Hammerhead products that provide improved access to your cloud PPM data, accelerate access to visual reports and dashboards using Power BI, and connect data between your PPM system and Azure DevOps, Teams, Microsoft Planner, and Active Directory to improve visibility, insight, and control over your work, people, and projects. Finally, Progility provides post-implementation support services, including expert care, which is designed to assist your PMO with gaining on-demand expertise on the solutions supported. We also offer training for your end users and administrators, and an e-learning course that can improve consistency and adoption for your users of your project management tools. We do have a set of upcoming webinars covering topics ranging from better resource management with Microsoft PPM to using Project for the Web to manage business projects. All webinars will start at 1 p.m. Eastern, and you can register for one or multiple events through the Eventbrite link provided or by searching Eventbrite Progility in your browser. So we hope you can join us for these upcoming sessions, which were designed based upon your feedback over the last 6 months. If you missed the Progility Virtual Project Conference in April, you can now watch it online. It's broken into 3 sessions. You can find client presentations from the state of North Dakota and Geisinger Health System, where they've shared their best practices for deployment. You can also find a deployment and adoption best practices session by Progility. And then finally, you can find an entire session with experts from Microsoft talking about project in their industries and the overall product vision going forward. So you can visit the link here, which takes you to the YouTube playlist with these videos posted. And all videos from this and previous series are available on our best practice playlist on YouTube, listed on this page. So you can find topics ranging from managing your digital transformation program using PPM technologies, to integrating PPM with agile and line of business applications. So feel free to subscribe and access this library at any time and share with your colleagues. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Rob Hirschman, who's a partner at Progility, who will be going through our content today. Rob, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Sarah, and welcome everybody to our webinar today. Today's webinar is building off a lot of the previous sessions we've done. We're really going to be focused on different mechanisms, approaches, and tools for doing better reporting out of your project and portfolio management system. We'll start out with a quick overview of some of the different reporting challenges we're seeing out there and some of the key requirements. We'll then flow down and walk through the different tool options that are out there from a reporting perspective. We are going to walk through a bit of a structure and give you a framework for structuring your PPM application data in a way that it supports good reporting analytics, which is really a good foundation for taking a first step, not just going right to the reports, but thinking about the structure of the data that will lead to good reports. Because what you'll see is that working with your stakeholders, there are always going to be different requirements for reporting. You really want to have an infrastructure and a data structure designed to support that. We'll walk you through some examples of some sample reports that we've seen some of our clients have deployed, just to give you some representative samples, feeling for what's possible, the different types of reporting tools, talk about some architecture options, and finally answer some questions you may have and talk through some questions you typically want to start asking around how you can properly plan a solution deployment. So let's jump right in. In terms of some of the critical challenges we're seeing from a lot of our clients, the first one from a reporting perspective is, hey, I really want to understand what's the status of all the projects I have out there. To do that, you have to have a good inventory. You have to be able to aggregate your projects in different ways. You have to capture project-related information and metadata, and you have to have your project manager statusing those. Then you can move forward with actually building out and designing different kinds of data and status reports. The second requirement or key challenge is also giving executive management the information they need to make critical decisions, to understand what's going right and wrong, how's the health and status of our program, our portfolio, how are things going on different key projects, and the executives can then go and drill down into just the areas that are troubled or the areas they're most curious on. So really delivering on-demand access to that data. One of the biggest challenges we see is really trust in the data and the information that's in that system. If they look and the data doesn't look consistent or it isn't in alignment with their expectations, they may start to have trust issues and say, hey, are you really collecting the information we need to make business decisions? That all comes from having a really good, well-designed PPM solution and data structure behind it so that the data that comes out is based off good data going in and being processed in the middle. We're also seeing a lot of organizations have really moved to more matrix-based orgs where they actually have multiple processes, different teams, different tools, but also different methodologies in place. You may find some folks are doing their projects in an agile or an iterative way. Some are doing it in waterfall, and you may measure those projects differently, which means your data structure and your reports really have to actually be structured to support those kind of information points. Reporting we found is often disjointed. You've got some people with Excel sheets, some people use Power BI, some people use a tool like Tableau, some people just pull the data out and they like to mine it on their desktop. There's lots of different approaches to this, but having a centralized data model and a centralized architecture and approach can then drive consistent reporting with whatever tool people use. So we'll get in to show that. And finally, just the final requirement is really trending. How do I improve my processes by looking at the information that people have put in that we've used to make decisions so I can improve my ability to deliver projects on time and on budget, so I can improve my forecasting, so management really trusts the information I'm providing them with so that they can make those decisions, but I can deliver on the commitments I'm making to the business. So these are some of the critical challenges we're finding that move to a centralized reporting structure. So when we look at the core challenges with reporting from an online Microsoft PPM platform, there's really 6 or 7 of these. The first one, access to your data. So, physically accessing the data. Then there's the data staging. Most people think, I'll just go in and grab it and write a report. Well, how am I going to get that data out? How am I going to transform that data? How am I going to load it into a reporting tool? And then what kind of logic am I going to have as it's making that pathway from the actual data into a reporting structure? And that ETL layer is really, really important. And you definitely want to think about it because as you start to expand out and get different audiences for the data, they're going to ask different questions and they may be asking for different levels of granularity. Because of that, you really want to sit down and come up with a solid data architecture behind how your data is going to relate to one another and how it's going to relate to your end users. Then we can get into report creation, report modification, and then report delivery. How are we going to actually provide this information to the end users? And as I mentioned before, most folks start with step 4. You really want to back up and start with step 1 as you're designing your PPM application. You want to actually go through 1, 2, and 3 as you're designing 4. From there, we get to dashboards. And as we work with most of our clients, the first thing they say is, hey, we want dashboards. Well, dashboards are really the result of the top 4 above it. Dashboards are an aggregation of the data, how it's staged, the architecture behind it, but also the different reports. Reports and reporting components become components of dashboards. Dashboards aren't just magically turned on. They're really the source is the information behind the scenes. And then there's always a requirement to actually get user access and security controls behind reports. You may want certain reports going to certain management team members that show certain information, others show other pieces of information. You may want, for instance, maybe team members to go in and look at different subsets of reports, but not access the management or the project manager reports. So we really have to think through the user access and the security controls behind the data that we're going to be delivering in terms of reporting. And that should really match with our PPM application. And additionally, and really importantly, we want to think about, what are people going to be asking for potentially in the future? We can't say, here's the 10 reports we're going to need next year, but we can say, based on the kind of information I get today, I think we're going to need certain data points going forward. So we may want to start to think through and design that and build that into our intake and our project management process and procedure, even from the beginning. So these really are some of the key steps that we start seeing as some of the key requirements. But with any reporting solution, what you'll always want to start with is what are the business questions that I'm looking to answer as a business? And if you can sit down with your business stakeholders, just like you would with any other application that's not a project management tool, and define these questions. That will help determine the data you're going to need, the formats you're going to be looking for, the devices you're going to be using, and the reports that are going to be required. We find that a lot of organizations we go into actually come back to us and say, hey, can you help us really enhance our system? We started with something very basic that was quote unquote out of the box, dropped some templates in from some vendor. They really didn't give us what we needed. Well, out of the box is out of the box. It's a really good start, but it certainly doesn't meet the specific requirements you're going to have. So, we always say be wary of when you're buying a package, because the package isn't necessarily, and it's very rarely designed to meet your requirements, even if it says best practices on it. So you really want to think about being prepared to go beyond what's pre-built and meet your specific requirements. We can go into 10 different clients, and I can tell you they have 10 different sets of reporting requirements. The core structure around portfolios and programs and projects and resources and work is the same, but how you slice and dice that, how you have naming conventions, how you group the information, the logic and the data flow and the metrics behind it is all going to be different based on your organization. So it really is something that's going to be unique to your organization and group. Let's talk a little bit about the typical audiences we see that need different kinds of reports from your project management application. The first group is going to be folks that are program or portfolio managers. So the kind of information they are looking for in the bullets here, they're going to be looking for program and portfolio risk information. They're going to be looking for performance information at a program and a portfolio level. And remember that a program is not just a bunch of projects. It's actually a series of interrelated activities that has some kind of a business goal. So we want to actually start to measure, have we achieved some of the goals of the program? And by the way, how successful have the projects been and the interrelated work within it to meet those goals? Same thing with a portfolio. We may simply say, I want to group all my projects by portfolio, but at the end of the day, what are the metrics you want to use to track success on that portfolio or multiple portfolios? Is it cost reduction? Is it revenue improvement? Is it improved efficiency of your team members? So you want to think about some of these different relationships and structure your data in a way in your project management system so you're capturing that kind of information. Your project managers are going to need basic status information to drive status reports, issue and risk reporting so they can track any of the risks. What are the potential risks? What are the things that could become issues and how do I triage and manage those? They're also going to want to track project performance and have consistent performance metrics on and across the projects they manage. The third audience is resource managers. And these are folks that in a matrixed organization are responsible for managing people. They're going to want information on their resources, their capacity, their availability. They want to track the demand, the incoming requests that are coming in, start to look at that against that capacity so they can make decisions. They want to look at things like compliance to time. How many of my people have submitted their timesheets on time? Does the time align with the actual time we allocated for them from a project, non-project, and administrative perspective? And do I need to move resources around or allocate work in different ways? They also want to be able to forecast out in the future and say, this is what we did the last 6 months. Let's use that as good data to actually make a forecast for the next 6 months on what we can deliver from a people and personnel perspective. So there's a unique audience around people managers that you want to start to think through as well. We find that about 95% of our clients are looking to do resource management in these tools. And finally, you've got executives, and they're much more concerned about the higher level picture. They want to know portfolio performance. They want reports on governance and business value. What value are we getting from the investments? Not only are we on time and on budget, but can we deliver on the actual results we're looking for from the projects? And that's the whole point of a project, is to deliver some kind of business value or results. They want to know what the spend is. What have we spent versus what we should have spent? And by the way, are we making up any deficits or gaps we have in those areas? They want to understand at a portfolio level, what are the biggest risks for delivering these programs and portfolios? What are the issues we have that are currently being managed? And finally, as I mentioned, benefits. What are we getting out of this? What is the ROI? Setting up information in our data structure to track benefits and realized benefits is really important as well. So if you think about it, your program and portfolio managers, they're looking for a summary and then the drill down to details. Project managers, very, very, very similar. They want to actually just get a status report that's consistent, measured, and easy for them to keep up to date. They keep the data in the system up to date, and the ability to drill into the detail so they can assign action items, assign risks, and make sure risks and issues are mitigated and managed properly, but they can deliver on time and on budget. Resource managers, same thing. It's all about the detail and getting them out of those Excel spreadsheets, getting them proactively using the application and the reports to make really solid business and staffing decisions. And then executives, they really only want the summary. They don't have any time. They want to look at a picture and they want to look at some visuals. They want to understand what's right and wrong, drill into the red stuff, understand what the problems are, then pick up the phone and know who they need to call. So these are the typical reporting audiences we see. Yours obviously in your organization may vary, but these are just some structures to give you some ideas in a framework. When we start looking at the Microsoft reporting tools, there's really 4 different categories of tools we look at. The first one, from a reporting perspective on your projects, is Microsoft Project on the desktop. And it may seem really obvious, but a lot of organizations that work without a centralized PPM solution still have their project managers managing their projects in Microsoft Project. It's really great for obviously your individual project management, but also individual project reports. If I just need to go into an individual project manager's schedule and just have him or her drive a report on the milestones or the dependencies out of that schedule, Microsoft Project Desktop reports are a really good solution. If I want to do any kind of on-demand analysis of that data just within the schedule, not looking at things like issues and risks and action items, Project Pro reporting is really great. If I actually want, and I know my project managers don't work connected in a Project Online or PPM environment, then Project Pro on my desktop reports are a really good fit. So I wouldn't overlook the reporting that's in Microsoft Project because it actually can be pretty powerful, assuming your project managers build and manage their schedules consistently. Then we've got our good friend Excel. Most people use Excel for pretty much everything, but Excel is really designed for any kind of quick analysis on the data we have across our projects when you know the kind of questions you want to ask. If you want to pull data out on your projects and your resources, spin a pivot table up and start looking at work versus planned work, and you like to work in Excel on your desktop, it's a great tool, and you can use Excel to connect into your Project Online data. Also, it's a great solution if we want to analyze and model that data across multiple projects, again, in a desktop environment where we don't need dashboards or formalized reports. Excel is the tool we use. We find this is a pretty popular approach. It's also great for business users that are not used to enterprise reporting solutions, but it's much more familiar for them to jump into a spreadsheet, look at the data, and understand the context of that data when they talk to you about the projects. So we never want to forget about our good friend Excel. What's become really popular over the last 4 or 5 years is the emergence of on-demand reports and analytics tools, and that's where Power BI comes in. Power BI has a tremendous place in your project management toolkit from a reporting perspective. It's really great for doing cross-project analysis and trending, where I want a visualization and I want to drill into that data. And I can then drill down to different levels. I can start at a portfolio, drill down to a program, drill down to a project, drill down to specific activities, drill down to resources. I can really get to subsets of the data, and Power BI acts like the Excel on steroids. It's really an enterprise analytics and reporting toolkit. But one of the limitations with Power BI, the standard version and the pro version, is that it's a 1 page at a time solution. You get a snapshot, you can drill into another snapshot, so you're going page to page to page. Multi-pagination is not something that Power BI has traditionally been known for. It can be enabled to do that next, and we're going to show you that. But if you're doing any kind of mobile reporting where you want to deliver reports to an executive's phone or a tablet, Power BI is great. And it also gives you that on-demand dashboard-like experience. Everything looks like a dashboard. It's very interactive and very intuitive. So Power BI should definitely be a tool in your toolkit, but it's typically not the only one. And finally, the fourth tool is really a combination of 2 tools. It's traditionally called SQL Reporting Services, or SSRS. And now Microsoft has taken that and it's rolled it into Power BI, but it's part of the premium SKU, or the premium suite, which has a higher cost range. These reports are best for multi-page, or what we call paginated reports. That is a report that could cover 3 or 4 or 5 scrolling pages where we may want to print that out and distribute it to people. We'll give you some examples of these. If you have very specific formatting you want to put in a report, SSRS and Power BI Premium are still the right solution for that. It allows you to also distribute these, whether it's a PowerPoint, an Excel, a Word. You can take a version of that and send it out to people, or automatically send it out to people, and it's all printable, importantly. And finally, a lot of organizations have complexity in their reporting. They're looking at multiple data sets. They're looking at different sets, like maybe you want a timesheet report that pulls out all the records over the last 4 weeks and trends that against periods for the previous 4 weeks. SSRS and Power BI Premium are really a good tool set for that, much better than Power BI. So you want to really look at what's the right tool for the specific audience you have in mind. And it's probably going to be a combination of these 4 tools. But with a reporting structure around your PPM system, it all begins with gathering and organizing the information. So you'll see we'll start on the left here. And the first thing we want to do is start to organize our information in our PPM system. So we have to set our PPM system up with a couple of different components. The core of our PPM system, there's really 5 objects in there. There's projects and project-related information and metadata. The next step down is resources and resource-related information. There is work information in there. Then there's assignment. And assignments are the lowest building block that you're going to have in your project management application. So I'm taking a resource and a work and I'm smashing those together. And I'm creating this over a time phase period. For instance, if I assign Sarah to a task that goes over 5 days, an assignment is going to cover all 5 of those days. I'm going to have a Monday assignment, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's 5 assignments. And you can imagine if you have 600 or 800 people in your IT group and you're creating detailed assignments and they're going to timesheets, that could easily add up to tens of thousands, almost millions of records over a period of time. So that's a very, very large data set. They're going to have to think about how I'm going to manage and report off that. And finally, we have timesheets. Timesheets are a unique entity in our PPM system, as are issues and risks. But when we think about extending this out, we can start extending that out with other information. So some typical extensions of our project management information, maybe we want to track and manage financial information. That can be at a top level, the total cost of our projects, CapEx and OpEx, or drilling down to a detailed activity, or even down to assignments to say, is this a CapEx or OpEx assignment for a specific user at a certain time? So financials is one element you want to think about. You may also be tracking and managing against different business strategies or operational goals. Maybe you want to see what the strategies were and how you actually realize those strategies with the investments you make. Did the projects deliver on those strategies? Also, you may want to roll out projects to initiatives. Maybe you have organizational initiatives such as cost cutting or revenue enhancement. You can roll those up, and this is very popular in the Agile world, and say which projects contributed to these initiatives and what kind of contribution did they make against what we spent and the resources we used to get there. Portfolios are very, very popular from an organizational structure perspective. So we can organize things into portfolios. It could be IT, the business, health, marketing, whatever the different groups are, or we can organize it into kind of business portfolios. So portfolios are a fairly flexible structure that should map to how your organization is structured and how you want to report. Additionally, we have programs, and programs are those ongoing interrelated sets of activities where we're trying to deliver on some kind of value. So you've got your core PPM data, and then you have extensions on that data. What we want to start thinking about doing is once we're setting up our PPM system, you can see now in the diagram we have Project Online, where we have our projects and our resources and our project sites. That's all within a SharePoint Online environment. So we may also find that some of the extended data, financial information, portfolio, strategy information, may actually be coming from a separate system. And this is a great place to start thinking about a structure, a data structure that's going to merge information from PPM and other applications. Instead of doing systems integration, we can think about a data integration layer here. It's much more flexible, it's easier to change over time, and that way we don't have to build these unique connectors. So start thinking about, is that data somewhere else? Does it add value? And do we want to include that in our overall reporting strategy? Once we have this, we then want to start designing our data model and our data storage mechanism. And that's where we're going to create our data design and our relationships between the different data elements in our PPM system and potentially in other systems as well. That's where we want to start thinking, where do I want this data actually be stored? It's coming from different sources. Am I okay with it just living temporarily in Power BI and then reporting out of that? So do I want my data living in an analytics tool? Do I want to have a dedicated PPM data warehouse that has all of that data that I can then trend and report off of? Or do I have an enterprise strategy for business intelligence? And I want to leverage that team and that structure into an EDW, an enterprise data warehouse, or a portion of maybe get a unique data lake, an Azure Data Lake for this as well. So where that data is stored in the data model is a pretty important decision you want to make. You don't just want to plop it all in Power BI and go, because you may have some requirements that won't meet, or it doesn't give you the kind of background you need data-wise. From there, we can start designing our reporting structure and then our dashboards. So you can see a lot of folks we work with end up starting with, hey, let's set up Project Online, let's go right to Power BI. And if you're going to do any kind of enterprise reporting, you really want to think through all of these steps and stages first, because those outputs should definitely drive your strategy, but they're also going to drive the specific tools you're going to be recommending and using for those audiences. It's never a one-size-fits-all with reporting. Some people want Excel reports, maybe the folks in finance. Some people will love Power BI, maybe in IT. Some people want SQL Reporting Services, maybe your project managers who need to create fairly complex reports, or maybe the PMO. So really going through this process and designing an overall strategy and an approach can really help you become a lot more successful with your reports. So, the value of having this centralized data architecture and thinking through it as you're designing your system, it'll allow you to be a lot more flexible long-term. It'll allow you to pivot when new demands or new requirements emerge. You don't have to redesign your entire system and redesign your reporting structure. You're prepared for that. By taking a little time up front, it can save you a lot on the back end. And that can come into play at a lot of times that are real for all of us. If the environment changes, COVID hits, we need to modify how we do things from a project management perspective, how we report. We're ready to pivot and do that. A lot of times we find that when new executives come into an organization, they have a very specific mindset in terms of what they want and how they want things to work. You're ready to pivot on that. You don't have to go and reevaluate the tools and pick a new project management tool. You just need to kind of pivot on your reporting structure and your reporting approach because you have a flexible architecture around it. You'll also find as you start to expand out use and a lot more people become interested in your PPM system, a lot of these business stakeholders will start asking questions you never would have imagined they would have asked before. You have to be ready to not only answer those, but come up with a strategy for getting them the answers and making sure you can actually start to capture the information they're looking for if it's relevant. And also, the organization is going to change. Technology is going to change as well. You want to have flexibility in your reporting tools. This is really important. We find that a lot of business-focused organizations use different reporting tools in the IT group. Well, what if I want to allow them to stay in their own reporting tool, but access my PPM data? That's where you want some flexibility in your reporting tools. So really taking some time up front to think through this and come up with a really good strategy as you're designing your PPM system, or if you're already using your PPM system, we can back up and help design a strategy that's designed for that. So a little planning in this area can go a long way and add a lot of business value. So we wanted to walk you through some example reports really to help you visualize what's possible with these different tools. So let's start with project on the desktop, and you'll see in the bottom right of these slides, you'll see the image for which tool we're talking about. The reports you see here are all project managers working in their Microsoft Project Desktop client generating reports. The report you see here is a combination of a work overview report that shows you work on the top. Towards the middle, it shows you some statistics on the work. Below that, it shows you who's working on what and how many hours they've spent on things. To the right of that, you'll see there's remaining availability of your resources. And above that, you'll see the percentage of work complete, remaining work, and actual work performed. This is a report that's generated from the Microsoft Project Desktop client for one project. So we're working on one project. Maybe we've got a couple of different, but we're generating this from our desktop. We're not using an enterprise reporting tool. We can generate milestone reports that show us on this project what's late, what's up next, and what's been completed, and a burn down on those milestones to see how many hours each milestone took. We can also generate reports on critical tasks. So anything that's on our critical path, we can start looking at those activities, their start and finish dates, how far along they are, the remaining work, and then who's assigned to it. Remember, we're working in a disconnected format here. We don't have an enterprise project management system. We still want to do reporting, and we can still do that with the Microsoft Project Desktop client. So these, again, are all the Microsoft Project Professional Desktop client reports you could generate. We start moving more into Power BI. And this is more of that enterprise dashboarding and analytics tool that's a lot more visual, a lot more intuitive. This is where we're going to be looking across multiple projects and then aggregating that information in different ways. The report I'm showing you here is actually from one of our active clients where COVID hit and they needed to pivot very quickly and not only collect time on COVID-related work, but different categories of it all in one place, so they could actually go back and apply for CARES Act money that was going to offset some of their expenses in this area. So this specific report allows them to look at the time spent on COVID-specific activities, who the manager was, the reporter, who the VP is the work exempt or not. And then at the bottom, we have all the data in terms of the timesheet line items and how much time was spent. So they could, within 30 seconds, generate a report showing over a certain period of time, how much COVID-related work did they have and what's all the detail behind that, so they could actually get that funded. So this is a good example of being able to pivot very, very quickly because they had a very flexible data model and then simply updating their PPM system, update their data model, update their reports. A little more complex report here. Again, at the bottom right, Power BI again, you can see the logo. This is a quarterly report that shows us actually a couple of things. Number one, it's going to show us the different types of projects we have. It's going to show us the number of projects we have by project status. And it's also going to show us the projects by application area. So it's actually pivoting on 3 different data points and showing us this information, and we can drill into any of these in near real time. And again, this is using Power BI Project Online. A different pivot on that, would be category and then portfolio and then project type. So we have the ability to pivot in data in different ways. Again, looking at division, looking at priority. Again, having that data structure set up before we get into reporting is a really, really good first step. This is another one, a visual status report by one of our clients. again, a Power BI report where we can get in and see the breakup of the different types of work. You'll see in the middle we have, is it an audit projects, grant projects, or legislative? Then we have cost down at the bottom by task phase. So how much are we spending on each phase of work across all of our projects across our portfolio? And on the right, we can see the different program areas we have, as well as on top of that, the status of each one. So this made it very quick and easy for directors or executives to get into the tool and get reports out that are visual. Now, when we look at SQL Reporting Services or Power BI Premium, this is where we want a paginated report. We may have a project status report like the one you see on your screen in a very specific format with very specific structure that's going to drive information on the schedule, on the accomplishments, on the issues, on the status and the description, financials, all in one place, but that's going to be a 3 or 4 or 5 page report. There's just not enough space to generate all this on one page. Additionally, it could include a milestones page. So you can see this month's milestones and a listing that could be 4 or 5 pages long. You could be in a dashboard and scroll down, or you could actually go into a SQL Reporting Services report like this. And these are all live dynamic links to the specific projects. So it's a really nice and easy way for you to generate milestone reports that are all printable at a point in time. The difference is in a Power BI report, it's a live report at that moment. In an SSRS report, we can actually trend that and look back at different points in time. So a little different approach to reporting. Here's another example down at the bottom right, again, SQL Reporting Services or Power BI Premium. This is a project status report, and this is a multi-page status report. So you're going to see different indicators, health information, schedule, work, cost information coming from a financial system potentially. We talk about the data integration from different applications, accomplishments and plan, risks and issues and action items and milestones, everything really in one specifically formatted report. Another one, and this is another SQL Reporting Services or Power BI Premium. This is a program report. So this actually shows you on a specific program, in this case, the software benchmark architecture upgrade, all the projects on it, but you'll see at the top, we have indicators. These are program level indicators. So we're actually using the system to calculate different health and status of the overriding program based on the health and status of the projects within it and all the interrelated activities. And you can see as we go down, these are program level milestones. So they're actually set up at a program level. We've got program level risks. We also have below that all the projects and interrelated activities within the specific program. And this is something that could be 4 or 5 or 6 pages long. It's fairly complex. It's something that's not really well suited to a dashboard. So this is where we want a multi-page report. And added to that, if we start looking at, we really want to drill into the program. We want to do a program review. That is not something that happens over a 10-minute period. That's usually a half day to a day session. We're going to want to drill down into all of the key activities and milestones at a program and in a detailed project and activity level. And that's where a reporting tool like an SSRS or a Power BI Premium can be really, really useful. It's not a dashboard. It's actually a detailed report we need. We need to analyze that data at a very granular level. So, think about the right tool for the job based off of the different reporting audiences that you have. So, what does an overall architecture look like? And I'm going to show you kind of out of the box, and then we'll show you what a scalable enterprise architecture behind Project Online reporting looks like. So an out of the box architecture, we have Project Online with all of its data sitting in a SharePoint Online foundation. Then a lot of times what most folks do is they connect directly into the reporting tools. Project Online's backend provides a data feed called OData or OData 2.0, which is sucking subsets of data out of the backend Project Online database so that you can then analyze, trend, and report it, or extract, transform, load, and then report off of it. What comes out of those data feeds are those subsets of information. There's a feed on projects and the project-related data. There's a feed on resources. There's a feed on tasks or work. There's a feed on assignments. There's a feed on issues. There's a feed on risks, and there's also a feed on deliverables. This is the information that's going to be coming out through OData that you would then consume through a Power BI report. And this is where, a template can be very useful to help you pre-create a structure here. And then as you build things in Project Online, you transfer them over into Power BI. This is a very basic out-of-the-box architecture. And then you have your reports. So the end user sees the reports, but behind the scenes, there's all this data structure going on. We talk about a scalable enterprise architecture for reporting. That's where we're going to have to add another layer here. So we still have Project Online. What we're going to often do is add a data warehouse in the middle. So what that's going to do, it's not only going to take that OData information, but it's also going to pull any custom information you may have through the API. And then when we look at it, we've got all the information on the left. So if we wanted to, projects, risks, issues, tasks, assignments, all that comes out. But then on the right are some additional example data fields. These are things that are not available out of the box. Let's say you want to do monthly or weekly snapshots of information. That's something you could pull out. Let's say you have custom SharePoint lists, which a lot of organizations do. They build a change request and an action item and decisions or executives decisions list. That data is not available in the OData feeds. That's something you'd want to extend out through a data warehouse. Things like period indicators. So maybe you want a weekly indicator on the health and status of a project so you can trend it over time. That's something that OData as a standard doesn't pull out. So these are all things that you would need that are built at a SharePoint or project level that a data warehouse could assist with. Once we have that, we then have the data in the structure. We can then hit the reporting tools and hit the reports. So depending where you are in your organizational maturity and your rollout of PPM, it may be one approach or the other. But if you're thinking about going enterprise with this thing, you may want to think about that middle tier, that data warehouse at the bottom. It can give you a lot more flexibility over time. You won't run into certain guardrails that you would have with the out of the box, and you can expand that out as the different needs happen. You can really pivot on the data. So, again, the benefits of having a data warehouse in the middle, the first one is performance. When we start looking at OData, it's an efficient mechanism for getting your data. But if you think about, I need to pull all my timesheet records out. And by the way, every time, Project Online or Power BI goes in, it's going to pull out a subset of that data. If I have, a year of timesheet data and 1,000 people updating time every day, you could have 20 or 30 million records that are coming out. That could take a lot of time. OData can time out. You want to make that a back-end process if at all possible. Additionally, if you look at Microsoft documentation for large data sets, they actually recommend putting a data warehouse in the middle. So this is a recommended approach if you think you're going to have a lot of data. Additionally, as I mentioned, if you have any non-OData content, so OData is the out-of-the-box mechanism to pull data from Project Online, but things like snapshots, task activity updates, detailed assignment information. Also, if you're extending the functionality of your PPM system out with additional information, that's where it's going to be really useful. So that non-OData or non-out-of-the-box stuff, you're really going to need this. A lot of our clients actually need what we call offline access to your data. So if you have any audit requirements where you have an auditing team that comes in every year and they want to see a snapshot of everything that's been done over the past year, you can hand them your data warehouse, an extract of your data warehouse, and say, go. Here's a copy of it, go. If you were actually just working in a Project Online and Power BI environment, it's a lot harder to do. That data is always changing and moving. So if you have audit and compliance regulations, additionally, it provides some data portability. So actually, if you wanted to upgrade or migrate or just needed to take that data offline and do something with it, make it portable for another instance or another environment, you can report off that. Or maybe you have historical data you want to report off with new data from your system. And finally, one of the areas we see flexibility-wise is a lot of organizations aren't all in on everything Microsoft is the reality. People use different platforms. You may have some folks in the business that use Tableau or Click or Business Objects or a different tool like that. You have access to that data. You've got all your data in the SQL Server database, and certain tools like Tableau don't easily consume OData feeds. So you'll have a database that they can read from to make their business decisions, to write their reports from, which is really nice. Additionally, if you are looking at Power BI, Power BI Premium does have an additional cost. It can be anywhere from $5,000 a month in additional cost per node. So that can start to add up at $60,000 or $70,000 or $80,000 a year if you're just looking to generate paginated reports. Going this route is going to be less expensive until you start to scale that out. So that's just a cost point thing if you're looking at paginated reports right now. So really, and just kind of as we get towards a summary here, a really good PPM reporting strategy, it may involve different reporting tools and potentially different data sources. So as a PMO or an IT organization, you really want to prepare yourself for that discussion. Start with the questions. That's really the first thing. Figure out the questions you think you're going to want to answer today. Talk to your users, get their feedback, maybe interview some users who may be downstream users in the future, or talk to stakeholders and find out the questions they're going to ask. Then use that to really drive your architecture, your selection, your approach to the tools. If you just say, we're going to use Power BI for everything, and then you get in and realize it's not the best fit for all the data, you're going to run into a little bit of a wall. So, definitely leave yourself open to different opportunities and options here. So, from a starting point, some of the key questions we recommend you start asking to do that planning. The first one, what are your specific business requirements as it relates to reports from your PPM system? What are the 10 or 15 reports you just got to have to make business decisions on all your projects? get that list and use that to really start driving your decision making. The next question is who? Who needs access to that information, or what information, to make any kind of business decision on your projects? Another really important question is, what technology do we have today? If you can leverage existing processes, but also existing tech that you've already invested in, it's going to make the adoption a lot easier versus going to a whole new set of reporting tools. So leverage the existing investments, but build on top of that to really improve data access. Another key question you want to ask is security related. Do I need to maintain any kind of a data security model around specific reporting information? If that's the case, we want to pick the tools that can support that kind of a security model. And there's different options in the Microsoft platform that can help you get there. Another really important question is devices. We're finding more people are coming into the workplace with different devices. They may want to do the reporting in different ways. Some folks are very comfortable at a desktop or the laptop. Other folks are more comfortable with an iPad or a mobile device. You really want to understand the devices, because now we have lots of options for how we deliver reports, whether it's to a desktop, tablet, or to a phone in certain ways. And you may have folks in the field, maybe for capital or construction projects, they may want to look at data on a different kind of device as well. So it's really important that we understand that. Another key important question, do I ever need to print this data? Is there going to be a need to extract it out, give it to finance? In what format? What tools do they use? And do I need to print this? If so, that's going to help drive your technology decision here. And then the final question really is, do I need to consider that data warehouse as part of our overall architecture? We have a lot of clients that, the data warehouse has really saved them a lot of work, a lot of manual work, just having that middle tier there so they can expand out their functionality and know that reporting is right behind it. They're not going to run into walls with a reporting structure. The benefits of having a really solid strategy around this stuff, you're going to have meaningful metrics to make business decisions on your projects, probably the top one. And as you implement different metrics and improve your metrics to improve your processes, your reports will reflect that and your data will reflect that as well. You're going to be able to support a regular cadence for reporting, weekly status for projects, monthly reviews of programs, quarterly reviews of portfolios, annual reviews of the entire portfolio with trustworthy data, most importantly. You're going to be able to deliver reports to the different audiences as they need it at those different levels we talked through. Really important. You're not going to have to leave people out or extract data and hand it to them in Excel and let them go as they please. You're actually going to deliver useful reports on your platform. You're going to ensure you have executive buy-in on your PPM system. This is probably one of the most important drivers here, that if they can get data out that helps them make decisions, they will continue to invest in the PMO, the strategy you have, and the tools you have, because now they know it's going to help them get where they need to be, and they're getting real business value out of it. And finally, just from an overall platform management perspective and business perspective, it gives you that flexibility. If something like COVID hits again, God forbid, or the environment changes and we have another methodology that hits and we need to modify our approach to that, we have the flexibility. We don't need to crash the whole system and go and rebuild an entire application. We have a structure in place that we can build onto long term that'll last us 5-10 years out into the future. So there's some really solid business benefits to putting a good business strategy and a reporting strategy in place. With that said, if you do need assistance, obviously Progility is here with obviously professional services to assist with helping you design and build out a good structure and a strategy. We do offer 2 sets of reporting solutions that Sarah mentioned. One of those is what's called the Hammerhead PPM Data Warehouse on the left that gives you offline access to your data, allows you to synchronize your data into a backend database on demand. That data can be stored in the cloud, on premise, wherever you want that data to live. It's really your data to own. It can extend that data out for trending and integration with other systems. And importantly, it gives you a history of your data. And it's a snapshot really and allows you to record the data over time for audit and compliance. The other option we have is an accelerator for Power BI called Hammerhead BI on the right. It is a pre-built data model that directly talks to Project Online, kind of doing your initial and kind of your middle stage reporting. It's delivered as an app that can be delivered to different people on different devices. It actually has report and dashboard templates built in that you can build off of. It works in a hierarchy, in a relationship between portfolios, programs below that, projects, resources, and then timesheets and task and work. So it pre-builds a structure there that you can then build off of that we find is popular with about 90% of clients. And importantly, you can tailor and modify this like everything is needed. It really becomes something you can grow with over time. So if you are looking out there for, kind of, I would call them pre-built solutions, these aren't pre-built solutions. They're components that can be added into an overall PPM strategy for reporting and can help really enhance the value you get from the solution. Again, tools are just part of the broader PPM strategy. We have some of these accelerators and tools to help get you more value if you're interested. Obviously, coupled with really good implementation services and training, that can lead to success. So if you're interested in either of these, definitely reach out. So with that, I'm going to hand the floor back to Sarah, and we'll go through some question and answer. Sarah?
Awesome. Thanks so much for the great presentation, Rob. If anyone has any questions, please type them into the Q&A chat box where I'll read them aloud for Rob to answer. Again, if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A chat box. All right, Rob, it looks like we don't have any questions today. So thanks again, everyone, for your time. We do have a set of upcoming webinars covering topics ranging from better resource management with Microsoft PPM to using Project for the Web to manage business projects. All webinars will start at 1 p.m. Eastern, and you can register for one or multiple events through the Eventbrite link provided or by searching Eventbrite Fragility in your browser. We hope you can join us. All videos from this and previous series are available on our best practice playlist on YouTube, including today's session. And to learn more about how Fragility can assist with improving and implementing your PPM reporting, or to get more details on some of our offerings, reach out and we'll set up time to review your needs. I'm Sarah Hard with Fragility, and my contact information is listed here. So thank you all for attending our webinar today, and have a great rest of your day.